Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Today we have ourselves quite a show, as we have a lot to get into in the world of Southern California sports, such as the Rams and Chargers being really busy in free agency. Did they hit the jackpot, or did they go bankrupt in terms of signing certain players and letting certain players go? And speaking of certain players coming and going, Aaron Donald announces his retirement from the Rams and the NFL. After 10 years, the big man hangs up the cleats, and I cannot be more sad and heartbroken. But there were a lot of amazing memories with Aaron Donald. Also, how about USC women's hoops? Winning the Pac-12 Tournament, the last ever Pac-12 Tournament in women's basketball, as it's looking like they're going to be the number 3 seed overall, but time will tell. Also, CBU women's hoops is in the semifinals, and they are currently playing in the WAC tournament. Can they bring home the gold and punch their ticket to the NCAA Tournament? Also, the Lakers lost to the Sacramento Kings again. And the Clippers have a little bit of an injury issue with Kawhi Leonard, as he is out with back spasms for the time being. All that and more here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Friday afternoon, Friday morning, Friday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you have made your way to episode 172 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. And without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show would not be live on Spreaker without IE Sports Radio providing the platform. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok at IE Sports Radio. We also have a Facebook page for those that still use Facebook. All you just have to do is type in the word IE Sports and then Radio in the search bar, like us, and then that's how you're able to follow us. We also have a website, iesportsradio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our Hall of Fame, our Fans of the Month, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, our community forum, and our merchandise shop. For the last 9 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, the single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, it's low in sugar and high in protein. This is some of the best jerky you can get your hands on, and all you have to do is visit planetjerky.net and place your order. In addition, prices are slashed for the time being, and if you get $50 or more worth of an order, you will get the shipping for free. Once again, a huge shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. Our second sponsor is Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations, and you're looking for the extra special touch. Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or friend, and you want to add their smile when they receive it. If that's the case, then Seal the Deal with Cecilia handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts is for you. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. That's their motto. Follow them on Instagram at @sealthedeal_wax stamps. And the way you can follow the SoCal Supreme Sports Show on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at SoCal Show IESR. And you can follow me, Teran Rodriguez, on X mainly, at Teran Rodriguez 1. All right. Without any further delay, let us begin. So Ralph Calise pops to the chat room. He says, "Good afternoon, Teran. Have a great show. Let's go." Yes, let's go indeed. Thank you for popping into the chat room. So we obviously have to start off with the elephant in the room with the Los Angeles Rams and Chargers in free agency. Just because, well, that's kind of the headline of this week, and that's basically big news all around. So for starters, obviously there was the signing of Kevin Dotson, who basically is re-signing with the Rams. We obviously got the deal done, and it's officially official, which is very nice. Now, who else the Rams signed was also Colby Parkinson, tight end from the Seattle Seahawks. So he's obviously a SoCal kid, and he's coming home, which is really nice. And in addition, he's a tight end. So what this is implying is that Colby Parkinson is probably going to be getting the start over Tyler Higbee, considering, if you all remember, Tyler Higbee tore his ACL courtesy of, I think, Kirby Joseph in that wild card matchup between the Detroit Lions, which I still think that was a pretty dirty hit. But Colby Parkinson kind of helps the Rams' tight end room. I don't even remember the second tight end for the Rams. I don't even remember their tight end too. But having Colby Parkinson will definitely help, especially if Tyler Higbee's injury will bleed into training camp, and it prevents him from getting back onto the field and him having to be put on the PUP list. So there's that signing right there. The Rams also signed Jonah Jackson, offensive lineman, to a three-year deal, which I think is big time right there because, well, the Rams need to shore up their offensive line, and they got to protect Matthew Stafford to the best of their ability. And they just recently signed on the defensive front Darius Williams, as he was signed to a 3-year deal, which I think is pretty good. So some nice signings right there. And they also signed, I just said, Darius Williams. I feel they just signed a cornerback as well. And they also tendered outside linebacker Michael Hocht, which I think is pretty cool. So they tendered him, and then they also tendered Alaric Jackson, so that's another offensive lineman. So good job to the Rams in that regard. So I think that was pretty much it. They did sign someone from the Washington Commanders, which I'm blanking on the name. I'm unfortunately blanking on the name, and that's my bad on that in that regard. But it was to a pretty solid deal. It was Cameron Curl, a safety for the Commanders. He signed a 2-year deal worth $13 million max, and he's actually one of the top remaining free agents. So that's pretty good right there for the Rams, signing him, shoring up that defensive front and whatnot. So there you have it for the Rams. I want to say that's pretty much it for the signings of the Rams. If there's any more, I'll definitely let you all know. But all in all, the Rams are doing a solid job in free agency. I really like what they're doing. I think that they are definitely loading up their bases, and they have to make sure that their offensive line is probably their biggest priority. Like they'll definitely build on defense in the draft, but with the news that I'm about to talk next after I talk about the Chargers, we'll have a nice little discussion about that. So as for the Chargers, all right, so the Chargers have been quite different. So they've had kind of their ups and downs in terms of free agency. They haven't been able to sign a whole lot just because, well, for starters, remember they're in salary cap hell. So nice work, Telesco. I'm kidding. It's not all on Telesco, but I will say the J.C. Jackson one is kind of on him because they're eating up J.C. Jackson's contract, even though he just got released by the Patriots. So, oof. Anyway, so for the Chargers and who they have signed, first and foremost, they actually started off by signing Gus Edwards from the Baltimore Ravens. So he's basically he comes in on a 2-year deal, which I think that's pretty good. I definitely think that is awesome sauce. I think he's actually a good running back. Now, my only issue is with Gus Edwards is that he needs to stay healthy. If Gus Edwards is not healthy, this might be a big bust, if you ask me. And you want to know what's even worse is that Austin Eckler kind of packed his bag and went to the Washington Commanders. So, yeah. So we get one running back from the DMV as opposed to our starting running back going to the DMVs. So that sucks for the Chargers, but I really thought this was bound to happen. I had a feeling Austin Eckler was on his way out. This season was kind of a dud year, or this past season was kind of a dud year for him, unfortunately, and it sucks because I definitely think he is one of the top running backs in the league. Now, am I happy with Gus Edwards? Yes, but I would have liked other players such as maybe Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs. It's unfortunate, but again, the Chargers were in so much salary cap hell that they had to either restructure contracts, trade away players, or they basically had to let players go. Speaking of which, they did release Mike Williams, which, oh, man, that's brutal, dude. That is so brutal, unfortunately, and I feel really heartbroken that it had to happen. And Mike Williams is that 50-50 guy, is that guy who thinks that a 50-50 ball is not going to get caught, but it's a 100% chance, as I think Steve Levy, I forget the guy's name that on ESPN that broadcasted that Monday Night Football game with Brian Greasy. Steve Levy, that's his name. Steve Levy was the one that basically called him 50-50 ball is 100% for Mike Williams. And Mike Williams, in my opinion, I thought he was such a sneaky good pick from where the Chargers drafted. And hopefully the Chargers can bring him back for cheaper. But in all reality, I think every team is going to want to salivate in regards to bringing in Mike Williams. And unfortunately, the NFL is a business, as this next bit of news really hurt. As the Chargers traded away Keenan Allen to the Chicago Bears, which, this one hurts, man. Losing out on Mike Williams also hurt, but losing Keenan Allen, he wanted to be a Charger for life, and that was kind of the thing. They wanted to make Keenan Allen a Charger for life and make him retire a Charger for life. But unfortunately, the NFL is a business, and it's unfortunate that the Chargers just could not either restructure his contract or just keep him around for a bit longer. So the good thing is that releasing Mike Williams freed up a lot of cap space, and Keenan Allen getting traded also frees up a good amount of cap space. But there are some positives for the Chargers, as the Chargers did restructure the contracts of Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. Now, that's actually very good, because I actually had my doubts of Joey Bosa staying as well as Khalil Mack. So I really am happy the Chargers got to keep Joey Bosa, especially since there were rumors saying that the Niners were probably going to trade for Joey Bosa. But in my opinion, I think the Niners would have had to give up quite a bit for him. Maybe like a second rounder and like a key player. But honestly, the fact that the Chargers are keeping two of their defensive staples is really good. And Khalil Mack just had himself a monster year, even at his age. Now, my only concern for Joey Bosa is he's got to actually earn his money, because in the past 2 seasons, the Chargers have only seen Joey Bosa on the field for 14 games. And keep in mind, that's the past 2 seasons. Not last season, past 2 seasons. And 14 games is not a whole lot. It just really isn't, because it's a 17-game season. And then the Chargers had that one game in the playoffs where, unfortunately, you know what happened in that game. So it's 35 games, and Joey Bosa was only available for 2/5, which 14 out of 35. But it is what it is. As Patty Bax pops in the chat room, she says she's at work now and she has the show back in the background. Have a great show. And Patty was also saying she was hoping Khalil Mack would have been let go and that the Bills could have had a chance to get him and bring him back to Buffalo. So she references that because Khalil Mack went to the University of Buffalo, which you look. I really think that's wishful thinking, but I think Khalil Mack is an anchor for the Chargers defense. And the fact that he had such a great year, I think he had like 17 sacks on a defense that was fairly leaky, and with a so-called defensive guru who was practically carried by Aaron Donald when he was with the Rams and all the other defensive talent on the Chargers. I think it's pretty impressive that Khalil Mack basically restructured his contract and he wants to stay. So I do give the E for effort in regards to him going back to Buffalo because he went to the University of Buffalo, but I think the Rams need all the assets that they need. And the fact that he restructured means that he wants to stay a Charger and maybe retire a Charger. So we'll see what happens with the other free agency. But with all the restructures and the trade and the releasing of Mike Williams, the Chargers now are under the cap, and they should be just fine. Unfortunately, we do have to say goodbye to the likes of Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, and Keenan Allen. And by the way, the only remaining San Diego Charger from back when the Chargers were in San Diego is Joey Bosa. So everyone else is gone or traded or retired. So unfortunately, that's just how it is, and Joey Bosa is a real one for restructuring his contract. I was very concerned on if Joey Bosa was going to be staying, especially since he's had stints on IR the past 2 seasons. But thankfully, he restructured his contract and he put the team ahead of himself. So good for Joey Bosa, and I am happy he and Khalil Mack are staying. So that is pretty much that right there for the Rams and the Chargers. But before we wrap up the Rams, we obviously have the big news. This was just released today, I think at about like 10 a.m., that Aaron Donald announced on X, formerly known as Twitter, that he is retiring after 10 seasons in the NFL. Now, here's what I'm going to say about Aaron Donald. Well, first and foremost, the dude's 32, and the dude had an illustrious career. He was named the Defensive Rookie of the Year. He was named Defensive Player of the Year multiple times. He made the Pro Bowl in every year he was with the Rams, and honestly, that's pretty impressive. He and Barry Sanders both made the Pro Bowl with the same team in 10-plus years, which I thought was pretty darn impressive. He obviously won a Super Bowl, and there's just so many memories, and he terrorized a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL. So the fact that he's retiring, it's a little bittersweet, but honestly, the dude has earned his bag, and he can enjoy retirement. And I'm so thankful he retired at least as a Super Bowl champion. Thankfully, he managed to get that ring, because I would have been so heartbroken if he didn't. I thought he was going to maybe be like the defensive version of Dan Marino or Dan Fouts. So there you have it right there. And there's just so many great memories with Aaron Donald. But one that I do remember is, and this actually popped up on my feed, is that Sean McVay, this was 4th and 9 in the Super Bowl, in Super Bowl 54, or I think it was 50. No, it was 55. It was Super Bowl 55, and it was 4th and 9. The Cincinnati Bengals have the ball. They're trying to drive to make one last push to keep their Super Bowl chances alive. And Sean McVay on the sideline says, Aaron Donald's going to make a play. And sure enough, Aaron Donald was able to get to Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow basically had to throw the ball away. And that was that. And that was probably the most legendary moment of Aaron Donald's career. He got the stop on 4th down, and how fitting that it was him getting the stop on 4th down and not like someone else and whatnot. So I thought that was very incredible for Aaron Donald to have that Super Bowl clinching play, and for him to win a Super Bowl, especially at SoFi Stadium. That was what even made it. That's what made it even special. The fact that he won the Super Bowl in SoFi Stadium against a very talented Bengals team, and he was the one that made the game-clinching play, which wound up giving the Rams their second Super Bowl and first in Los Angeles. And it's probably the first time Los Angeles has won a Super Bowl since the Raiders did back when they were in Los Angeles, which I know is cliche, but still. So many great memories. The quarterback that he sacked the most was Russell Wilson, which that was courtesy of when they played the Seahawks. I don't think he had any when they played the Broncos, just because Aaron Donald was out for a majority of the year. And they eventually put him on season-ending IR, which I found pretty fitting, in my opinion. So there you have it right there in regards to Aaron Donald and some of my favorite memories with him. It's just going to be so different without Aaron Donald. Obviously, he is one of a kind, and there's not ever going to be another Aaron Donald. Les Snead said it best. There is not going to be another Aaron Donald. He is one of one, and he's a first-ballot Hall of Famer. Anyone that says he is not a first-ballot Hall of Famer or he's not going to get into the Hall of Fame, you can go argue with a brick wall. Like, come on, dude. His resume says it best in terms of him getting into the Hall of Fame. I would be shocked if he was not first ballot. Just like how, unfortunately, Antonio Gates wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer, which I think is pretty stupid if you ask me. So there you have it, and it just feels sad that he's hanging up the cleats. I wish he could have gotten one more, but the fact that he has one, the fact that he has all these awards and accolades, it just means that he had a fantastic career with the Rams, and we're all going to miss him, except for the quarterbacks. The quarterbacks that, especially the NFC West quarterbacks, they are not going to be missing Aaron Donald anytime soon. No quarterback is going to be missing Aaron Donald, especially not Geno Smith. But I digress. But that's going to do it for the Rams officially. And I do want to give him a SoCal Supreme Sports Show salute off to retirement. And I do want to say thank you for bringing home a Super Bowl to Los Angeles and taking down those pesky Bengals. Nothing against the Bengals, but I will just say, yeah, it was just quite amazing. And honestly, even as a Chargers fan, I do salute the man, the myth, the legend, Aaron Donald. And I hope he enjoys retirement soon. Maybe we'll see him on the NFL Network along with Andrew Whitworth. I think that would be pretty funny and ironic if you ask me. But I digress in that regard. So, all right, that's going to do it for the NFL portion of this show. So we have nothing in regards to college football, but jumping over to college basketball. So on the women's side of things, well, for starters, USC managed to, win the Pac-12 tournament. So last time we left off with them, they were playing UCLA in the Pac-12 tournament semifinals, where, believe it or not, they actually had a dogfight with UCLA, and this was the matchup I was expecting. So USC eventually pulled out the win over UCLA in double overtime. They wound up winning 80-70, which I thought was very impressive. It was kind of a tale of like two quarters through the first and second quarter, but the third and fourth quarter were just so tight, even though UCLA won those quarters, and then eventually USC was able to finally win it in overtime. And that was kind of a breath of fresh air, just because that was the rubber match between USC and UCLA. And throughout, more often than not, I'm fairly certain UCLA was kind of little sister to big sister UCLA, but now the tides have changed. I wouldn't say the tides have changed, but I will say USC just looks so much more relevant, and they are a women's basketball school, which I think is awesome. So after USC dispatched of UCLA in double overtime, they were able to take down Stanford in the Pac-12 Tournament Championship, winning 74-61. Now, here's the interesting thing about USC. In that game, Juju Watkins did not have her best game. She was a whopping 2 for 15 from the field. She was 0 for 3, and she only had 9 points. That's a big fat oof. That's the bad news. The good news is that USC got contributions from Mackenzie Forbes, who had 26 points. She was big time right there. And Rhea Marshall also had 10 points to go along with 18 rebounds. Also, Mackenzie Forbes made 4 3-pointers, which I thought was very impressive. In addition, Kayla Padilla, who's also a senior, she had 13 points as well, and she made 3 threes. So that was something good for USC. Cameron Brink led the way for Stanford with 19 points and 10 boards. But it wasn't enough, as USC won the Pac-12 tournament, and they are for sure a 1 seed in their region of the bracket. I could go as far as to say they're the 3 seed overall. I think the only 2 teams that top USC in terms of pedigree and resume are Iowa, who is going to be the number 2 overall seed, and the juggernaut themselves, the other USC, rolls eyes, South Carolina. But for USC, I think this is awesome, just because this win in the Pac-12 tournament is so special. First and foremost, they took down Stanford, which was number 2 in the nation. Second of all, it was the last ever Pac-12 game that's going to be played, because every team is either going to the Big Ten, the ACC, the Big 12, or for Oregon State and Washington State, the West Coast Conference. And then this is also the last ever Pac-12 tournament, so the fact that USC won this is quite amazing. And some thought that USC was either going to lose in the quarterfinals or the semifinals to like UCLA. But they were able to prove everybody wrong, and they were able to win that fairly easily. Now, I will say that the quarterfinal win over Arizona was a little hair-raising, but I guess this shows that Arizona was in an upset-like mood. So there you have it for USC women's hoops right there and then. Unfortunately for the other teams such as LMU and San Diego and Pepperdine, they wound up losing. LMU lost in the quarterfinals, which I guess isn't terrible, but let's be honest, it's still pretty bad. And then San Diego lost to Pacific, which, I mean, what were you expecting? A miracle? Come on. Anyway, And then San Diego State eventually fell this week as they lost to, I want to say it was UNLV? Yeah, they lost to UNLV in the championship match on Wednesday, 66-49. They did beat Boise State in the semifinals, 72-69. Nice. And then they also beat New Mexico on Monday, 67-56. So, honestly, for San Diego State women's basketball, for them being a 7 seed, they were able to shock quite a good number of teams, in my opinion. Though Boise State was also in an upset-like mood. So, good for San Diego State women's hoops. Now, will they get into the NCAA tournament? I don't know if they will. I think it's basically either being a bid stealer or that's it. I can see them getting into the WNIT, where they will most likely be there just because they managed to make the tournament championship in the Mountain West Conference. I think it's still pretty good if you ask me. So there you have it right there regarding the Mountain West Conference. Now, as for the Big West Conference, so the Big West Conference is down to 4 teams, as I don't really know how many. I don't really know the teams off the top of my head that fell in which matchup, but all I can tell you is that the final matchups, or the semifinals tonight or today, depending on where you're listening from, are Hawaii and UC Davis, which are not in SoCal, and then the other semifinal is Long Beach State and UC Irvine. Now, Long Beach State has been in the upset-like mood. So the first round they took down UC Santa Barbara 90-75, and then yesterday, they took down UC Riverside in overtime, 83-73, which I think is pretty incredible. Now, Long Beach State has had quite the dreadful. Okay, I wouldn't say dreadful, but they've had such an iffy year, if you ask me. They were the 6th seed, and they took down the 7th seed, and then they upset the 3 seed, which was UC Riverside, and now they're taking on UC Irvine, which is the 2 seed. Now, I will say, Long Beach State's going to have a tough matchup whether they make the final or not. They already have a tough matchup with UC Irvine, but the last time UC Irvine and Long Beach State played, UC Irvine was taken to overtime, where they eventually beat Long Beach State at Walter Pyramid in Long Beach, 86-76. It's going to boil down to Long Beach State's senior leadership. But regardless of who wins between UC Irvine and Long Beach State, we're having at least one SoCal team in the Big West Conference Tournament Championship. But I will just say, Long Beach State has come a long way, and the fact that they're playing some good basketball as of late is pretty incredible if you ask me. So we could be getting one team in the West Coast in SoCal in the NCAA tournament, or we can be getting like 2, 3, or 4. Now, I'm obviously not forgetting UCLA. I'm certain UCLA is going to make the NCAA tournament. They were number 7 in the nation last I checked. Well, if not, they've moved down a bit. But I will say, I'd be shocked if UCLA missed out on the NCAA tournament. They've been top 10 throughout most of the year, if not top 15, and I just don't see a scenario where UCLA gets left out. If that's the case, then someone on the committee is going to be getting fired. But UCLA should be making the NCAA tournament. Now, I'm no bracketologist, but I imagine they'd be like a 3 seed in a region. So maybe 3 seed, maybe a 2 seed. But UCLA women's hoops has had a stellar year, even through all of the ups and downs, the injuries, some of their players unfortunately quitting. But UCLA women's hoops is doing a fantastic job, and you gotta give it up to Corey Close. She is doing her darndest as the head coach, and I think she's going to take that team. I'd be shocked if UCLA didn't make it to at least the Sweet 16. But as for Long Beach State UC Irvine, that will be played at 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, and we'll see what happens going forward. So, as for the West Coast Conference, CBU Women's Hoops is currently playing UT Arlington, where they're up 41-31 in the second quarter against the Mavericks. So I imagine CBU will be playing the winner of Grand Canyon Stephen F. Austin. Yes, that is correct. So Grand Canyon Stephen F. Austin await the winner of UT Arlington and CBU. So I'm really hoping CBU gets into the NCAA tournament, which would imply them winning the WAC tournament, just because, as Daryl Trujillo, my guest, said last week, I just don't see a scenario where they'll be in, because they had that loss to Louisiana Tech, and then they have 2 other losses in overtime in the regular season. They lost to Utah Valley, and then they lost to I get these schools mixed up. It's either Abilene Christian, I want to say they lost. Yeah, Abilene Christian. So Abilene Christian and Utah Valley, they lost to in overtime, which obviously they'd love to have those games back. And that Louisiana Tech game, it wasn't a bad game, but it was just because you know why. Probably because they were shorthanded and whatnot. So there you go. So like I said, I'm imagining we obviously have USC in the big dance on the women's side. But UCLA should be another, so that's 2 teams. I'm not sure about CBU. I imagine CBU will get in if they take care of business and they don't underestimate the likes of, first and foremost, UT Arlington, and they also don't underestimate Grand Canyon or Abilene or Stephen F. Austin. And then I'm not sure about Long Beach State UC Irvine. Nothing against Long Beach State. It is my alma mater, and I love my school, but I don't know if they can beat Hawaii. Like, Hawaii is playing some pretty darn good basketball on the women's side. I'd be stunned if UC Irvine lost to Long Beach, or if a Long Beach State lost, or if Long Beach State beat Hawaii. This isn't last year where Long Beach State had such a stacked team. And then UC Irvine, I want to give UC Irvine a chance against Hawaii, against UC Davis at the very least, but I don't know about Hawaii. Like I said, Hawaii is playing some darn good basketball as of late, and I really wish we can get like a bigger trajectory on UC Irvine and Long Beach State. Like, Long Beach State is probably the Cinderella of this whole Big West Conference tournament. But they have another challenge ahead as they got to take down the likes of UC Irvine. All right, but that is that for the NCAA women's basketball side of things. Now for the NCAA men's basketball side of things. And this is going to hurt. All right, so it's looking like we're not going to get too many teams from Southern California in the big dance, which... That's pretty disgusting. So we'll start with the obvious one, USC. So last week, I guess I should make note of this. They took down Arizona, number 5 Arizona, 78-65, and it's quite amazing that USC was able to string together 3 wins in a row before the Pac-12 tournament, just because I feel we now saw the potential of USC men's hoops, which they haven't really been on the court altogether at the same time, and then Andy Enfield basically took the heat. And then in the first round of the Pac-12 tournament, USC was able to outlast Washington 80-74, which I thought was a pretty good win. So USC had won 4 in a row. Then they took on the top seed themselves, Arizona, in the quarterfinals. But unfortunately for USC, and this was kind of inevitable, USC just got stomped on by Arizona. Now, there were some questionable calls from the officiating. I thought the officiating was a little at this point in that matchup, but honestly, USC would have had to play perfect basketball to take down Arizona, and Arizona would have had to play their worst game. But it is what it is, as USC ends the season 15-8. Again, unfortunately, I think USC, in my opinion, was the most disappointing team in terms of men's basketball altogether. They and Miami both. Miami, not Miami of Ohio, but Miami, the U. Them. Anyway, so USC ends their disappointing season. Now, UCLA, on the other hand, they kicked off the NCAA tournament. Well, first and foremost, last Saturday they took down Arizona State 59-47. And then the first round of the Pac-12 tournament, they beat Oregon State, to no surprise, 67-57. But unfortunately, in the quarterfinals against Oregon, they wound up losing 68-66. As Nafale Dante managed to hit a hook shot with 37 seconds left, and that actually proved to be the difference maker for Oregon. So, what a dreadful end to the season for UCLA, as they actually led 34-29 at halftime, but unfortunately lost the second half 39-32. Dylan Andrews led the way for UCLA with 24 points, while Nafale Dante had 22 points. So, unfortunately for UCLA, that treacherous season comes to an end as Mick Cronin's consecutive NCAA tournament appearance streak has also ended. I think it ended at like 10, maybe 12 appearances, but UCLA's got a big offseason ahead of them, and I'm sure they'll keep Mick Cronin. This one season isn't all on him. They just lost a lot of players to graduation and the NBA draft and the transfer portal. So I think UCLA will be fine in terms of keeping Mick Cronin. I just don't want their players to enter the transfer portal. So, and what's worse for UCLA and USC is that next year they're going into the Big Ten. And the Big Ten in men's basketball is such a juggernaut and gauntlet. And did I also mention that Washington and Oregon are coming with them as well? But they're not SoCal. The only SoCal I'm talking about is UCLA and USC. But both those teams are out, and I am very sad. So CBU men's hoops, staying on the men's side of things and jumping to the WAC tournament, they managed to win their first round matchup against Utah Valley, taking them down 74-63 in overtime. Unfortunately, they lost their final match of the season. Well, now was their final match of the season. They got blown out by Seattle 81-57. So CBU men's hoops is out as they finished the season 16-17, the same record as UCLA, ironically enough. But CBU men's hoops is unfortunately out. They also lost their final regular season game to Grand Canyon by quite a bit. But I digress. Jumping over to the Mountain West Conference, San Diego State managed to outlast UNLV in overtime. Their last two games have been overtime games, as they lost to Boise State in overtime 79-77, and that was 3 days after they lost to UNLV. And then yesterday they managed to beat UNLV, get a little revenge against those Rebels, 74-71 in the quarterfinals of the Mountain West Conference Championship. So tonight, the Aztecs, who made the NCAA Tournament Championship last season, they take on number 18 Utah State in the semifinals of the Mountain West Conference Tournament. And San Diego State, I hope they can get their redemption against Utah State, just because Utah State is one of the teams that beat them this year. But I will say, even if San Diego State loses, Matt Garner, one of Adam Karnick's buddies, said on Chi-Town Weekly in regards to their bracketology episode, he sees San Diego State making the tournament. I want to say it as like a 6th seed. I will just say San Diego State men's basketball did do Matt Garner dirty, as unfortunately for him, they ruined his bracket. But it is what it is, and I'm not really a March Madness guy. So if it makes you feel better, my bracket was ruined too, Matt Garner. All right, but San Diego State men's basketball is still in the hunt for a possible automatic qualifier, but beating Utah State is going to be tough. But I'm confident that the Aztecs can do it. I hope we can get NCAA Tournament Aztecs or postseason Aztecs. I think that'd be pretty solid, if you ask me. So there's that for San Diego State. So jumping over to the... Okay, well, I don't really need to go over the West Coast Conference, just because, well, for starters, every team stunk. As San Diego got stomped on by Santa Clara in the quarterfinals of the West Coast Conference Tournament, 104-79. I expected a little better from those Toreros. And then LMU lost to Portland in the second round, 78-70. So all the SoCal teams in the West Coast Conference on the men's and women's side of things in basketball, they've seen better days. I'm sorry, but that's the best way to put it. All right. Moving on from that tragedy. So in regards to men's basketball in the Big West, so the semifinals, one of the semifinals includes Long Beach State and UC Irvine, which I think that's pretty interesting if you ask me. And then the other one is Hawaii UC Davis. So if you're keeping track of the Big West Conference tournament, both Long Beach State, UC Irvine, Hawaii, and UC Davis have all made the semifinals in both men's and women's basketball, which I think is pretty funny if you ask me. But for UC Irvine and Long Beach State, it's kind of going to be an uphill climb for Long Beach State, to say the least. I will say I do applaud Long Beach State, and I have to give them a shout out just because, first and foremost, they're my alma mater, but they also made history in a big, big way, as you're going to hopefully try to pronounce this guy's name right. Abubakar Traore had the second triple-double in Long Beach State men's basketball history, and he had the first triple-double in Big West Conference tournament history, as he had 12 points, 13 assists, and 11 boards. So, big SoCal Supreme Sports Show salute to Abubakar Traore on achieving a triple-double. It's never easy to get a triple-double, so kudos to Abubakar. And if I'm mispronouncing that name, I do apologize. Also, for Long Beach State, Lassina Traore, he had 21 points and 11 boards. I want to say those two are brothers. Those two have to be brothers. I'd be shocked if that wasn't the case. And then Marcus Sohonis, if I mispronounced that as well, I do apologize, but Marcus Sohonis, he had 19 points. He also made 5 threes, which was over half of Long Beach State's three-pointers made. So, great job to Long Beach State as they managed to top UC Riverside, but now they face the top overall seed in the tournament, UC Irvine. And UC Irvine is going to be a mountain to climb. Russell Turner, like I've mentioned, he does such a great job with that program. I know he could be a little bit, I wouldn't say full of himself, but he could be a little with some of his comments. Like one time, I went to one of his former players' jersey retirement at the high school, and he was happy that USC football lost in the Pac-12 tournament. He was like, I love watching USC lose. It's probably because maybe USC takes their recruits or poaches their recruits, but I'm not going to speculate. That's just what I overheard from Russell Turner. But I digress. Every team doesn't like USC, and they love seeing the demise of USC. Anyway, But Long Beach State UC Irvine is going to be fun, and one of those teams will be representing Southern California in the finals of the Big West Conference Tournament, just like on the women's side. So I kind of find it really funny that those 4 teams that I mentioned, Long Beach State, Hawaii, UC Irvine, and UC Davis, are all in the Big West Conference Tournament semifinals, and those matchups are exactly the same. So insert Spider-Man meme right here. Anyway, but it's looking like we could be getting one, at the very least one NCAA tournament team. And that's probably going to be San Diego State, because every other team lost and is under 500, or they just straight up suck. I highly doubt the loser of Long Beach State, UC Irvine, gets into the NCAA tournament. I imagine they'll be getting into the NIT, maybe, but it's not 100% certain. And then the loser of the Big West Conference Tournament final between UC Irvine / Long Beach State is probably not going to get into the NCAA tournament. But UC Irvine has secured themselves a spot in at the very least, in the NIT because, well, for starters, whatchamacallit, they wound up winning the regular season conference tournament, which I think is pretty good if you ask me. And then also I have to give a shout out to UC San Diego men's basketball as, well, for starters, they're not in the NCAA tournament as, well, not the NCAA tournament, but not in the Big West Conference tournament. If you've been paying attention, UC San Diego did not make the NCAA tournament because they're still in the transition rule from Division II all the way up to Division I, which, I still think that's such a crappy rule. However, I will just say, I have to give a shout out to UC San Diego men's basketball because they are going to be participating in the CBI, the College Basketball Invitational, which will be held in Daytona Beach, Florida. So, while UC San Diego unfortunately cannot partake in the NCAA tournament in the Big West Conference Tournament, they are definitely in it for the CBI. I think that's a nice little consolation prize, just because I hate the Division II to Division I transfer rule or the limbo period. But I will just say, I think it's pretty incredible that they're going to be getting some sort of postseason action. I really think that they deserve it, and I also gotta give a shout out to their head coach Eric Olin, as he was named the Big West Conference Coach of the Year. Now, if you remember correctly, UC San Diego finished the regular season in second place in the Big West Conference, and that's not an easy conference to finish second in, just because you got a lot of talented teams in that conference, like Long Beach State, UC Irvine, Hawaii, Davis, Riverside. I mean, Riverside kind of had their ups and downs, but still, they're pretty solid. CSUN, which beat UCLA on the road, that's another good team in the Big West Conference. So, all in all, to get second place in the Big West Conference and to now have a invitation in the CBI, I think that's pretty incredible if you ask me. So, congratulations to San Diego State men's hoops, or I'm sorry, not San Diego State, UC San Diego men's hoops. And here's hoping you could bring home some hardware from the CBI. All right, but that is going to do it for NCAA men's basketball. As, again, I imagine we're going to get one team from the NCAA tournament representing SoCal. I'm not sure about the others. It looks like SoCal might be more represented in basketball regarding the women's side, which, speaking of the women's side, quick little, we got to circle the wagons back to CBU UT Arlington as, woo boy, CBU women's hoops is laying down the hurt on UT Arlington. They are up 52-35 at halftime. Let's keep it up, knocking on wood, to the point where CBU can advance to the championship, and hopefully they can advance to the NCAA tournament, because it's either they win the WAC tournament or they don't make the NCAA tournament. Unfortunately, their resume just isn't strong enough, and they just don't have the horses to advance. Now, maybe if they were undefeated and and maybe they somehow lose in the WAC tournament final, maybe they could make it into the NCAA tournament, but I don't know. All right, but that's that for some college hoops altogether. So jumping on over to some MLS action, I guess I should also mention that the MLB, I think next week is opening day, which I think it's going to be pretty fun. So, in regards to the MLS, Saturday we had LAFC and Sporting KC play to a 0-0 draw, which... Oh, that's fun. I mean, ties aren't really losses, but it's not really convenient, if you ask me. Funny enough is that Sporting KC's record is all ties, which is, I think, is pretty funny. So there was no one that scored, obviously, as LAFC is back in action tomorrow when they hit the road to the Twin Cities to take on Minnesota, which should be a fun matchup. Now, as for the LA Galaxy, they actually played Nashville to a 2-2 tie, and here's the thing about the Galaxy. Remember how they did pretty well against Inter Miami, and then they were able to stomp on the San Jose Quakes? Well, Nashville, it was kind of a different story. So it was 0-0 at the half, so I was thinking, are we going to get another 0-0 draw? Well, Nashville had other plans, as they scored a penalty kick on the 54th minute, courtesy of Teal Bunbury, and then 4 minutes after that, Drew Yearwood scored for Nashville, and suddenly the Galaxy are down 2-0. So I'm already fearing for my life. I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. But at the same time, I was like, well, the old Galaxy are back. It was fun while it lasted regarding seeing maybe the new Galaxy. But fortunately for the Galaxy, they got their first goal of the game, courtesy of Ricard Puig, scoring in the 67th minute. And then 15 minutes after that, Dejan Hovlicic scored for the Galaxy in the 82nd minute. And eventually the Galaxy and LAFC played to a 2-2 draw. Now, for the Galaxy, I will say this. At least it's not a loss, because I would have had my doubts, and I would have probably said, well, the old Galaxy are back. They suck officially. But I'm a little optimistic about the Galaxy, as the Galaxy are back in action tomorrow when they host St. Louis City SC, and that is the correct... I wouldn't say pronunciation, but that's the correct vernacular. St. Louis City SC. So that should be a fun little matchup right there, as St. Louis City SC is 2-2. Oh, they're 1-2-0. They have the same record as the Galaxy, ironically enough, as they have 1 win, 2 draws, no losses, and their goal differential is +2. So it's still very early, though. So I wouldn't hit the MLS Cup bet line just yet if I'm the Galaxy. What I do find a little annoying is that Inter Miami is in first place in the Eastern Conference. And I guess they're partaking in a tournament, but I digress. Alright, but that is that for the MLS portion of the show. So this weekend, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have some NWSL action, which, that's awesome sauce. So in terms of the NWSL, the Angel City FC and the San Diego Wave FC is back in action, which, as we all know, regarding last year, both those teams were one and done. San Diego Wave FC lost in the semifinals, which, of course, they had to lose in the semifinals. And then Angel City FC, through all their ups and downs, they managed to make the playoffs, but they were one and done as well. But no one really had ultimate expectations for Angel City. No offense to them, that's no disrespect to them, but nobody expected them to really go down. So they start both those teams start the Challenge Cup tonight, as the Wave FC plays New Jersey/New York Gotham, and it's going to be held in Harrison, New Jersey. So I guess New Jersey/New York changed its name. So they were originally known as Gotham City, or no, not Gotham City, but they were just known as Gotham. But I guess they're now known as the New Jersey/New York Gotham, which I think is pretty good if you ask me. So there's that right there in terms of the Challenge Cup, and then Angel City opens up its season against Bay FC. So Bay FC is a new NWSL team that hails from Northern California, or the Bay Area, which I think that's pretty cool. I think it's a nice little SoCal versus NorCal rivalry. I think that is, whoever designed the NWSL schedule is a freaking genius. The fact that we get a SoCal team versus a NorCal team in the first game of the season, and that is Bay FC's first ever match, I think that's very clever. And whoever designed that matchup, or whoever created the NWSL schedule for having that matchup as Angel City's first matchup and Bay FC's first matchup, you deserve the Big Brain Award. You deserve the Big Brain of the Week award. Whatever. But regardless, Angel City opens up their season on St. Paddy's Day on Sunday, which I think is pretty good if you ask me. Alright, but that's going to do it for the NWSL in that regard. I guess I should also mention Angel City is back in action next Saturday when they... Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong schedule. I'm looking at Bay FC's schedule. But next Friday, Angel City is back in action when they head down to the land of Disneyland to take on Orlando. And then for Wave FC, after they take on New York/New Jersey, they're back in action next Saturday when they host not Sporting KC, the Kansas City Current. So there's that in regards to the NWSL teams in SoCal. Larry B popped in the chat room. He said, T-Rod, great to have you in the chat room, Larry B, as well as you, Patty Backs. We're going to take ourselves a quick little commercial break. When we come back, we'll have more SoCal sports action regarding the Lakers and Clippers, a little bit of NHL, and then we have the Dum Dum of the Week. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
What's up, sports fans? You're listening to IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your favorite West Coast Wisconsinite, Bernie Bango, and if you're a cheesehead, come listen to my show, Big Cheese Sports, where we road trip around America's Dairyland, previewing, reviewing, predicting, debating, and digging into all that is Wisconsin sports at the college and pro levels. Join me on IE Sports Radio, Sundays at 1 p.m. Central Standard. Bernie out.
What's good, everyone? It's Drewski, the host of Heart of Texas Sports on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. On this station, we cover everything in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. From we cover the Dallas Cowboys, the Dallas Stars, Dallas Mavericks, Dallas Wings, Texas Rangers, TCU, SMU, we cover it all right here every Wednesdays from 9 to 10 p.m. Central Time. Make sure you stay live with me on the Heart of Texas Sports on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey there, sports fans. Are you looking for a sports show that maybe isn't 100% about sports?
Then you might want to check out the Sports Couple Perspectives right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Most sports shows cover only scores and stats, and while we're not opposed to that, we dig a little deeper into sports issues and some of the hottest topics in athletics.
In addition to sports, we take a journey through my neck of the woods, pop culture, with movie reviews of both sports and non-sports films.
Speaking of pop culture, make sure to participate in our game nights, where we quiz each other on our specialties, and you, the listeners, can win IE Sports Radio apparel.
We always have a great time learning more about each other's worlds, one show at a time.
So join us each week on the Sports Couple Perspectives, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Back with segment number 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, especially the 2 drops that were played previously. The Sports Couple Perspective with Larry B and Cecilia B. That will be going on at 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. And then Let's Whine About DMV Sports will be following them. I am interested to say the least, as I want to hear the other side of Austin Eckler signing with the Washington Commanders. I think it's going to be quite fascinating if you ask me. And I want to hear Mike's take on what he thinks of Gus Edwards leaving the Ravens to the Chargers. But time will tell. All right, second half of the show is underway. All right, let's discuss a little NBA action, as we got to talk a little Lakers, and we also got to talk a little Clippers. As sadly, the Lakers, I don't know what it is with the Lakers facing the Kings, but they lost to the Kings again, 120-107. And the worst part is that the Lakers actually got swept in the season series against the Kings, as Domantas Sabonis basically is the kryptonite of Anthony Davis, and I don't understand why. And everyone and their moms is making such a fat deal of it. It's like, who cares, dude? It's like, who cares if Anthony Davis has never beaten Domantas Sabonis? Last I checked, basketball is a team sport, and it's not one-on-one, so get that narrative out your frickin' mouth. Anyway, Austin Reeves led the way with 28 points. That's when you know the Lakers were not at their best, as LeBron only had 18 points, but he almost had a triple-double. Anthony Davis had 22 points and 10 boards to lead the way, but unfortunately, it was not enough. Unfortunately, LeBron James just cannot go God mode every single matchup, but it is what it is. Now, their previous 2 wins were actually rather impressive, as Sunday they beat the Minnesota Timberwolves 120-109, as LeBron James led the way with 29 points for the Lakers. All the starters for the Lakers were in double digits, Anthony Davis had a 20-20 game, 27 points, 25 rebounds, and this was the day before his birthday, which I think was pretty amazing if you ask me. Austin Reeves had 19 points, Rui Hachimura had 15 points, and D'Angelo Russell added 13 points. Now, the Bucks game, which was last Friday, that was rather interesting if you ask me. So, no LeBron James. I don't know if... No, they did have Anthony Davis, but no LeBron James. But the Lakers were able to pull out the win, winning 123-122. D'Angelo Russell had a whopping 40 points. He also had 9 assists and 6 boards. He made 9 3-pointers. 9 3-pointers. He really stepped up, and I don't know what to tell you about D'Angelo Russell. Sometimes he just has one of those bleh games, and sometimes he has one of those games. And maybe he could be staying with the Lakers a long time. Not sure, though. Anthony Davis had 22 points and 13 boards. Austin Reeves had 18 points. Rui Hachimura had 12 points. So there you have it right there. Not even the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo and his triple-double was able to save the Milwaukee Bucks from this. That's rather surprising if you ask me. So good on the Lakers for having those 2 wins. But their next game is a very crucial game, and that's tomorrow, as of this recording, when they host the Golden State Warriors. And then Monday, the Lakers host the Atlanta Hawks. And then next Friday, the Lakers will host the Philadelphia 76ers. Currently, in terms of the Lakers standing in the Western Conference, they are 9th. They are 2 games back of the Mavericks and 2.5 games behind Phoenix. And they're 3 games back of the Sacramento Kings, which... it's a bummer, but if it comes down to both those teams having the same record, those losses to the Kings are going to nip them in the butt. Anyway, as for the Clippers, they were able to beat the Chicago Bulls yesterday, 126-111. I mean, come on. The Bulls weren't going to beat the Clippers. And ironically enough, it's funny how the Clippers and the Lakers have faced certain opponents the last few times. So last Saturday, the Lakers took on the Kings, or last week the Lakers took on the Kings. And then last Saturday, the Clippers took on the Bulls, and they won both times. Whereas the Lakers, they took on the Kings twice in the last 4 games, and they wound up losing those. Now, for the Clippers, on the other hand, regarding the Bucks and the Timberwolves, they lost those matchups. So Tuesday, the Clippers got drubbed by the Timberwolves, 118-100, and then against the Bucks, they lost to the Bucks at home, 124-117, which is a complete bummer, but it is what it is. As the Clippers against Minnesota, they unfortunately saw Kawhi Leonard leaving because of back spasms. So my fear for Kawhi Leonard is I hope it's not too serious. He actually did not play against the Bucks, which, yeah, that's not going to help you win games, unfortunately. You know, the Clippers were missing Kawhi Leonard when the likes of Norman Powell led the way. Off the bench, mind you, with 26 points. Ivica Zubac had 18 points. Terrence Mann and Amir Kofi, they both had 16 points. James Harden had 13 points. And then off the bench, Bones Highland added 12 points. So no Paul George, which I'm a little concerned about. And then no Kawhi Leonard. But Kawhi did play in the matchup against the Timberwolves, unfortunately. And so did Paul George. Unfortunately, they lost that one. And they might have lost Kawhi for a bit long as well, as Kawhi only finished with 6 points in 12 minutes. Paul George had 22 points to lead the Clippers. James Harden had 12 points. Ivica Zubac 10 points. And then off the bench, Norman Powell added 11 points. But against the Bulls, the Clippers were very successful as Paul George led the way with 28 points in the Clippers win over the Bulls yesterday. Kawhi Leonard also came back. He had 27 points. Bones Highland also added 17 points. Terrence Mann added 12 points. And then Norman Powell off the bench had 18 points. Norman Powell's becoming quite the sixth man, if you ask me. So kudos to Powell. So with Kawhi Leonard playing yesterday, I don't think the Clippers need to worry too much about Kawhi Leonard, but I will also just say they got to keep a sharp eye on him because back spasms are small, but they can be deadly. Anyway, the Clippers are back in action tonight when they host the when they travel to the Big Easy to take on the New Orleans Pelicans. And then Sunday, the Clippers host the Portland Trailblazers. Wednesday, the Clippers hit the road for back-to-back games against the Portland Trailblazers on Wednesday and on Friday. So we'll see what happens when it comes to the Clippers, but all in all, I think they should be fine in terms of the next few games. The Hawks, unfortunately, don't have Trae Young. The Pelicans can be a little bit of a tricky matchup, especially coming off of a second of a back-to-back, but we'll see what happens. All right, but that's enough for the Clippers. So jumping on over to the NHL, where we got to talk about the Ducks, and we got to talk about the Kings. It was not a pretty week for the Ducks, that's for sure. So, unfortunately, they had such a rough week. Yesterday, they lost to the Minnesota Wild 2-0. Tuesday, they got stomped on, mollywopped. The list goes on and on. They lost 7-2 against the Chicago Blackhawks. Ooh. And they even allowed I think that was the game where Connor Bedard surpassed 20 goals, which he did so in 50 games. So, great job, Ducks. And then Sunday, the Ducks got whipped by the Islanders 6-1. And then last Friday, the Ducks lost to the Dallas Stars 6-2. So, remember that 3 wins out of 4 games that the Ducks had? Well, I forgot to. So they've lost 4 straight. So that's a big fat ouch. As the Ducks are back in action tonight when they hit the road to Canada to take on the Winnipeg Jets. Sunday, they are hitting the road to St. Louis to take on the Blues. Tuesday, they host the Minnesota Wild. Thursday, they host the Chicago Blackhawks. And then next Sunday, they take on the Tampa Bay Lightning. So there you have it for the Ducks. Nothing too special regarding them. They stink. At least they're not eliminated like the Sharks and the Blackhawks, but still, that's so bad, dude. Anyway, but that's that for the Anaheim Ducks. Jumping over to some LA Kings. So the Kings fared a little better. I wouldn't say they fared greatly this past week, but it was good, though. Wednesday, they did lose to the St. Louis Blues on the road, 3-1. And then Monday, they took down the New York Islanders. Take note, Ducks. 3-0. And then last Saturday, they lost to the Dallas Stars 4-1. And then I guess I should mention last Thursday, they beat the Ottawa Senators in OT 4-3. So tonight, the Kings will be hitting the road to the Windy City to take on the Chicago Blackhawks. Tomorrow, the Kings will take on the Dallas Stars in Dallas. Tuesday, the Kings will be hosting the Chicago Blackhawks. Wednesday, the Kings will be hosting the Minnesota Wild. And then next Saturday, the Kings will be hosting the Tampa Bay Lightning, which should be some fun times. I think that the Kings should pick up some wins, but knowing their luck, they're probably it's going to backfire. That being said, I will say the race to third place in the Pacific Division is getting a little tight between them and the Golden Knights, as the two teams are actually even in points, but the Kings have a better record because overtime losses. So good on the Kings, and hopefully they can stay consistent, but we'll see what happens. All right, but that is going to do it for the LA Kings portion of the show, as well as the hockey portion of the show. I think I've pretty much nailed everything regarding the LA sports scene. I don't think I'm missing anything too much, other than maybe the CIF Southern Section Boys Basketball Championships, which that's just quite a bit right there. So moving on. So jumping back to some NCAA women's basketball. So CBU Women's Hoops is still crushing UT Arlington, which is good. I'm glad we're seeing CBU Women's Hoops just put the hurt on UT Arlington 67-47. And honestly, that's good for them. So we're going to take ourselves one more commercial break, and then when we come back, we've got the Dum Dum of the Week. You're not going to want to miss it because I'm about to unleash a lot. So you were listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr., and I'm welcoming you to take another lap with the fastest show on IE Sports Radio. Yes, this is the Extra Mile with me and my co-hosts Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward. We talk everything racing from NASCAR to IndyCar to Formula One to limited hydroplanes, endurance racing, the NHRA, and more. So come join us for an hour of great racing talk and a lot of fun as well on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 8 p.m. only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we're back after a little bit of a commercial break with the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Sorry about that quick little intermission right there, but just need to take care of just one quick thing. But now let's get on into the Dum Dum of the Week. So the Dum Dum of the Week is an award I like to give out to, which no one is safe from. And honestly, anyone can get the Dum Dum of the Week award. And, you know, there's just too many nominees to give this Dum Dum of the Week out to, but that's why I give multiple ones out. So remember all the way back in the show where I said the Chargers traded away Keenan Allen. First and foremost, I'm disappointed. Second and foremost, I never talked about what the Chargers received. So the Chargers traded Keenan Allen for, can we get a drum roll please? The Chargers traded Keenan Allen for a 4th-round draft pick. I'm not kidding you. The Chargers traded away one of their franchise players for a 4th-round draft pick. Chargers, I just gotta say, I am so disappointed in you. I can't believe you traded away one of your longtime players who had one of the best success stories out there, being a 3rd-rounder from Cal, and he managed to become one of the best wide receivers in the league. And you traded him for a 4th? A 4th! Keenan Allen has to be at least a 3rd. And you could have gotten some players back with like minimal cap issues. At least get 2 picks. I am so frustrated that they only got a 4th-rounder. 4th-rounder. And you couldn't restructure his contract. You couldn't come to a conclusion where he could have just stayed put and maybe just restructured to the point where the Chargers would be still under the cap. I said this on Twitter yesterday via the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, or X, regardless. I said this on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show X account, that the Rams are still and are 100% Los Angeles' NFL team. The fact that the Chargers traded away one of their franchise players for a 4th-rounder is absolute asinine. At least when the Rams traded away Jared Goff and a 1st-round pick, they were able to win a Super Bowl out of it. But what have the Chargers done? Nothing. They traded away Keenan Allen. He's supposed to be a Charger for life. And I'm so mad at the Chargers. This is so frustrating, dude. And now I'm starting to wonder the direction where the Chargers are going in terms of the draft. I'm starting to think that the Chargers are going to be selecting Malik Neighbors over Brock Bowers. And they have to select Malik Neighbors. If not, get Marvin Harrison Jr. But I highly doubt he falls to 4, because the Cardinals just gave away Hollywood Brown for practically nothing to the Chiefs of all teams. Yeah, like they need any more help. But Chargers, I am so disappointed in you for trading away Keenan Allen for only a 4th-round pick. You could have gotten a 3rd. I know the Bears are scarce on draft picks this year, but come the frick on, dude. I am so mad, and I really wanted Keenan Allen to retire a Charger. I know the NFL is a business. I get it. But that is ridiculous that you couldn't come to a conclusion to restructure Keenan Allen's contract, and now he goes to the Chicago Bears. I just gotta say, Chargers, I'm so mad and so disappointed in you that you are Dum Dum of the Week yet again, and you can take this Dum Dum of the Week real quick.
That's so dumb.
Wait. I gotta turn you up, my guy. I gotta turn you up. You gotta say it with your chest, and you gotta say it loud and proud.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
I don't even think that deserves the Kawhi Leonard laugh, but still, thanks a lot, Chargers. I can't believe you freaking traded away Keenan Allen. It's one thing to release Mike Williams, because I feel that was kind of expected, but to trade Keenan Allen away for a fourth rounder is absolutely illogical and just straight up disappointing. Alright, but that's that for the first Dum Dum of the Week award. I know, and again, I know the NFL is a business, but still, I'm just so disappointed in that. Alright, now we go to another Dum Dum of the Week, and this one is a little bit more serious, and I know people love to make jokes and whatnot, but here's the thing. This ain't no joke, that's for sure. And this comes from comes from a guy who I think basically needs no introduction. Rick Pitino. Yes, everyone's favorite basketball coach from St. John's. As the dude said in I guess it was in a press conference, but he says how his team has got to beat UConn. He said, and I quote, "We got to have about 6 of their players get COVID." I'm not kidding you. Rick Pitino said the recipe for success against UConn, or how to beat UConn, would be 6 of their players have to get COVID. Bro, Rick Pitino, I'm not one to judge, and I know he was just joking, but you can't make jokes.
You're so dumb.
And my guy is basically jumping the gun. But yeah, that is dumb. You can't make COVID jokes, dude. I know the pandemic ended, and I don't want to sound political, but that is completely off the rails. You cannot just say things like that. And people have died because of COVID, dude. You couldn't have just said, well, the bus needs to get here late, or anything of that sort. You could have just said, we'll see what we can do, or anything of that sort. Like, you could have said anything else, but you said 6 of their players need to get COVID. No wonder people hate you, Rick. Like, come on, dude. That's a little... I know jokes are supposed to be a thing, but that's not funny. Talking about COVID ain't funny, dude. Because people have died from that. So, I hate to say this, but Rick Pitino, you gotta get Dum Dum of the Week, because shame on you for mentioning that. Like, that's no joke, dude. You can't just say that in a press conference. And I know I know he's just joking, but there are things you can joke about, and there are things you can't joke about. You could have just said their bus needs to head to the wrong gymnasium, or anything of that sort. But still, dude, I'm so disappointed in Rick Pitino. I just like the guy less and less now. So, Rick Pitino, for making a COVID joke, which is completely out of line and out of pocket, you are this week's Dum Dum of the Week, number 2.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real. So frustrating. And I think one more Dum Dum of the Week. And unfortunately, this Dum Dum of the Week has to go to me. So I don't know if y'all know this, but I actually have this little segment on Set Point called Set Point Extra Points, where I interview a coach or a player via Zoom, and we basically just talk about the season and other stuff and other potpourri. And this past week, I had the honor of, Wednesday, I had the honor of interviewing Jeff Nygaard. And do check that out if you can. It's on the IE Sports Radio YouTube page. Definitely do check out that Jeff Nygaard interview. So, you probably look at that interview and you're thinking, well, why is that a dumb thing, Teran? Well, during the interview, unfortunately, I made a bad thing, and this is something I hope Larry B, I hope you're kind of listening to this. He said the Chargers are weird, which you're not wrong, but unfortunately, I did a big fat no-no when it came to my interview. So, unfortunately for me, I asked a recruiting question. I asked about one of USC's future players, and Jeff pretty much said, you're going to have to take that out. And he couldn't really comment on that too much. So, and I remember back when I was first with IE Sports Radio, when Larry B and I did 3 and Out College Edition, he basically told me, you cannot ask recruiting questions. I kind of did that. I basically asked him what it's like having a certain player like that. And he said, I don't know if I can comment on that. And yeah, I did. I messed up big time. I had to take that out, which meant I had a little bit more editing to do regarding that video. But I need to know better than to ask recruiting questions. That's illegal. Coaches can get in trouble. Recruits can get in trouble. I can get in trouble. Larry B can get in trouble. I should know better. I can't believe I asked that recruiting question. I have soiled set point. Anyway, but moral of the story, kids, if you're going to interview a coach, never, ever, 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 ever ask them about recruits. Do not ask any recruiting questions, because coaches, organizations, recruits, the high schools, anybody can get in trouble, especially the interviewer. I don't care what anyone says, but for me, asking a recruiting question, which is a big fat NO, especially on IE Sports Radio, I am this week's Dumb Dumb of the Week. I should know better because, well, for starters, recruiting questions are a big fat no-no. And especially if it comes from Larry B. If Larry B is saying you cannot ask recruiting questions, I cannot ask recruiting questions. And the fact that I decided to ask this was completely a big fat airball on my part. So I'm this week's Dumb of the Week, and there is no debate on that.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Yeah, I gotta be a little bit more cautious when it comes to my questions. I'm sorry, Larry B. I didn't mean to. How could I do this? I shouldn't be laughing, but it's really it's the truth. I should know better than to ask those questions. But anyway, that's the moral of the story. So yeah, Larry B said it best. Those are sticky questions. You can't ask those. So, and Patty Back says, we all make mistakes. That's why we are the erasers on our pencils. Thank goodness you were able to edit it out. Yeah. And thankfully, I was able to cut that part out perfectly, and hopefully no one notices too much. So I have one more Dum Dum of the Week, and then I will let you all go. So as you all know, I am reapplying to work at Pavilions again. So during the rehiring process, I basically had to do training, and I basically had to put down my information. So what this meant was, this was so totally new to me that when I was putting down my personal info for my like direct deposit and whatnot, I had to download an app, and it's called the Authenticator app. So at first I was wondering, I guess I got to download the Authenticator app. So I thought this was going to be for free, because most apps are for free. Apparently this app is not free. This app, according to what my purchase history, cost $4. $4. Now I get it, $4 is not a lot, but why in Jupiter's jingle shoot do we need an Authenticator app to put down our information? I get it. Information is so sensitive, but that's why we have background checks, and that's why we have everything when it comes to this job. Like, I shouldn't have to pay for squat when it comes to an Authenticator app. At least give me an app that doesn't cost anything. Like, that's ridiculous, dude. And that $4 should be reimbursed in regards to my next paycheck. Like, that's stupid. I'm sorry, but there's no way in any sort of job that you should download an Authenticator app. Okay, maybe for like the IRS and for like maybe any government jobs, you have to download that app. But you shouldn't have to download an Authenticator app if you're applying to work at the grocery store. Like, goodness gracious, dude. Maybe for loss prevention, yes, but not if you're applying to become a courtesy clerk. I can't believe I had to download this app, first of all. Second and foremost, I can't believe it cost money, because most apps are now free nowadays. And third, I really just did not want to download the app. I really did not want to, but I had no choice but to download it and to pay the $4. Otherwise, I couldn't move on. I just think it's very stupid, if you ask me, that I had to download an authenticator app and basically have passwords and like two-way streets and two-way recognition. I just think it's really dumb. Why can't we just get texted a phone number and then just enter our information or enter the code from there, from the phone, and then so on and so forth? I just really don't like that. I really hated that, and I thought it was a colossal waste of my time. It was a colossal waste of the supervisor's time that basically was also keeping a watchful eye on me. And she thought it was free too, but apparently it cost $4. So, long story short, the Authenticator app, I don't know who deserves Dum Dum of the Week more. The Authenticator app for not being free, or whoever wants us to download the Authenticator app. But regardless, the people who basically want us to download the Authenticator app are Dum Dum of the Week, and the Authenticator app is Dum Dum of the Week for not being free, especially for a job. So both of them could take this Dum Dum of the Week. It was very frustrating. I didn't know what to do, and honestly, it was very tedious, if you ask me. And the thing is, I basically knowing how that thing worked was also tedious. I couldn't know how to work it because at first it wasn't working, and I was about ready to give up and maybe think, well, maybe this job doesn't want me back. But anyway, the Authenticator app and whoever in the pavilions or grocery store system wants us to download the Authenticator app is Dum Dum of the Week. There's no debate on that. Take this Dum Dum of the Week and never return it.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all she wrote. The Authenticator app costs $4, and the job that I applied to, which was a grocery store job, wanted us to download it and then just to authorize our passwords and whatnot. It's stupid, dude, and it's definitely worthy of Dum Dum of the Week, and I don't care what anyone says. Argue with me afterwards. Anyway, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Before I lose my mind, it is time we get on out of here, because I got to get ready, because I got some plans later on. Oh, but by the way, before we say goodbye, Larry B says, in other news, Cecilia and Larry B will be in attendance tomorrow when the Galaxy take on St. Louis City SC. So I hope the Galaxy do win that, because if they don't, they're getting Dum Dum of the Week. And he says hopefully the Galaxy don't lose 7-0. And yeah, I definitely agree that a grocery store job should not have the Authenticator app, Larry B. So, alright, it is that time we get on out of here. You dig? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I greatly appreciate you. CBU Women's Hoops is up 80-61 against UT Arlington in the semifinals of the WAC tournament. Hoping the Lady Lancers can close the deal out. Thank you to everyone in the chat room that tuned in. I appreciate you. Larry B, Patty Bax, and Ralph Calise. I really do appreciate y'all tuning in. I hope me working at Pavilions won't get in the way of me doing this show. If anything, I might have to shuffle up my show, which I hate to do, but it is what it is, because I really want to keep SoCal Supreme Sports Show going. But regardless, I'll let y'all know when SoCal will be going live next. Maybe next Saturday? Oh, wait, no, I can't do next Saturday. Maybe Thursday. But we'll see what happens. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself a great rest of the week. Enjoy the SoCal sports action. For those of you that care, tomorrow I will be at Long Beach State for Long Beach State versus Hawaii in men's volleyball. I will see you all on Monday for Set Point. Have a great rest of the weekend, and remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace!